The great meeting hall on Zentara Prime was filled with worried voices. Leaders from across the galaxy sat in their special chairs, each one made for their different body types. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles, and a few floated in glass boxes filled with strange gas. But they all shared the same fear. Admiral Vextar stood at the front of the room. His purple skin looked darker than usual, and his 3 eyes kept moving between the data screens. He was the head of the Hegemony Navy, the most powerful military force in the galaxy. For 200 years, his people had conquered world after world. No one had ever stopped them. "The signals from the outer rim have stopped," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "For 3 full cycles, we have heard nothing from our forces near the Sol system." Council member Thilla shifted in her chair. Her breathing mask made a soft hissing sound. "What does this mean? Did the humans destroy themselves?" Vextar looked at the star map floating above the table. A small yellow dot marked the location of Earth. "Our records show they were primitive. They had just learned to travel between stars. Their weapons were simple. Their ships were slow." "Then where are our fleets?" asked another voice from the crowd. The admiral had no answer. 6 months ago, they had sent their best ships to take control of the human homeworld. The planet had many useful things: water, metals, and billions of workers. It should have been easy. Humans were weak, or so their report said. "Maybe they had hidden weapons," suggested Councillor Brix. His green scales reflected the light from the screens. "Some species hide their true power until they are attacked." "Impossible," Vextar replied quickly. "We watched them for 50 years. We saw their wars, their technology, everything. They barely had energy shields. Their biggest ships were smaller than our scout vessels. But deep in the darkness of space, something moved between the stars. The ship was black as night, its surface covered in scars from battles no one in the galaxy had ever seen. Strange symbols marked its hull, letters from Earth that spelled KDSF Indomitable. On the bridge of the ship, Captain Lee Taman stared at the screen showing enemy positions. He was a tall man with dark hair and serious eyes. His uniform was different from anything the aliens had seen before. It was practical, built for war, not for show. "Sir," said Lieutenant Kim Sora from her station. She was young, but her voice was steady. "We are getting distress calls from the outer colonies. The hegemony is moving to take full control." Lee's hands tightened into fists. "How many of our people are still alive?" "We don't know, sir. But before the Sol defense grid went dark, they sent us this message." She pressed a button and a recording played. The voice was crackling with static, but the words were clear. "This is Earth Command. If anyone receives this, remember what they did to us. Make them pay for every life. Make them pay for every world. Earth's children must not die for nothing." The bridge fell silent. Everyone on the ship had lost someone in the attack. Families, friends, entire cities had been wiped out by the alien invaders. Earth was gone, but its people were not. Lieutenant Park Min-ho looked up from his console. "Captain, we are receiving movement reports from 12 sectors. The hegemony is sending more ships to finish what they started." Lee stood up and walked to the main screen. Outside, the stars looked peaceful, but he knew better. Somewhere out there, aliens were celebrating the destruction of his home. They thought humans were finished. "How wrong they are," he said quietly. Chief Engineer Han Jae-sung spoke from the back of the bridge. "Sir, all systems are running perfectly. The new power core is working better than expected. We can jump to any system in the galaxy." "And our weapons?" Lee asked. "Ready, sir. The plasma cannons are charged. The missile bays are loaded. The new shield system is online." Lee nodded. The hegemony had made one huge mistake. When they attacked Earth, they thought they were fighting farmers and shopkeepers. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this day for decades. Commander Nam Da-un, the ship's tactical officer, walked over to the captain. "Sir, what are your orders?" Lee looked at the star map again. The Zentara system glowed red on the screen. It was the heart of the hegemony, the place where all their leaders lived. For 200 years, no enemy had ever threatened that world. "Set course for Zentara Prime," Lee said. His voice was calm, but there was something dangerous in his eyes. "It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you attack Earth." "Sir," Kim Sora said carefully, "there are thousands of enemy ships protecting that system. Even with our new technology—" "They have numbers," Lee interrupted. "But we have something they don't understand. We have anger. We have purpose. And we have weapons they can't imagine." He turned to face his crew. These were the survivors, the ones who had escaped when Earth burned. They had spent months in the dark between stars, building new ships and planning their revenge. The hegemony thinks humans are extinct, Lee continued. They think they won. They are about to learn that you can't kill an idea, you can't destroy hope, and you definitely can't wipe out a species that refuses to die. The navigation officer began entering the course. Jump coordinates set, sir. Good. Send a message to all our ships. Tell them it's time to remind the galaxy why Earth's children learned to build weapons before they learned to build toys. As the Indomitable prepared to jump through space, Lee thought about Earth one last time. The blue world was gone, but its spirit lived on in every human who had survived. The aliens had taken their home, but they had created something much worse, an enemy that had nothing left to lose. Execute jump, Lee ordered. Space twisted around the ship as it disappeared into the darkness, heading toward the heart of the enemy empire. The galaxy was about to discover that some species become more dangerous when you try to destroy them. The war was about to begin. The hegemony patrol fleet moved slowly through the outer edge of the Zentara system. 17 ships spread out in a hunting formation, their sensors sweeping the darkness for any sign of trouble. Fleet Commander Zenth sat in his command chair, bored with another routine patrol. His ship, the Domination's Edge, was the pride of the hegemony fleet. It was 3 times longer than any human vessel they had seen, with weapons that could destroy a city from orbit. The smooth, curved hull gleamed with a purple metal that showed the wealth and power of his people. Fleet Commander, called sensor operator Clicks from his station. I'm reading something strange. A massive energy signature just appeared on the edge of our scan range. Zenth barely looked up from his reports. Probably space junk from one of those primitive human ships we destroyed. Their technology was so crude, pieces are still floating around. Sir, this is different. The energy pattern doesn't match anything in our database. And it's big. How big? Zenth asked, finally paying attention. Before Clicks could answer, space twisted and bent 3 kilometers away from their fleet. Reality seemed to tear open, and something came through that made every alien on every ship stop breathing. The KDSF Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace like a metal mountain appearing from nowhere. It was massive, bigger than most hegemony cruisers, but it looked nothing like their elegant ships. This vessel was built for one purpose only: war. Sharp angles cut across its dark hull. Weapon ports lined its sides like the eyes of a hungry beast. Strange markings covered its surface, battle scars from fights the aliens had never heard of. It moved with deadly grace, turning to face the hegemony fleet like a predator studying its prey. What is that thing? Whispered Communications Officer Relks. Zenth stared at the human ship, his confidence cracking. It's impossible. Humans don't have ships like that. Our intelligence report said they were primitives. Fleet Commander, Click said, his voice shaking. I'm reading power levels that shouldn't exist. Their energy output is 10 times higher than our best ships. Zenth forced himself to sound brave. It doesn't matter. We outnumber them 17 to 1. Open a channel. The communication screen flickered to life. Unknown vessel, this is Fleet Commander Zenth of the Hegemony Navy. You are in our space without permission. Identify yourself or be destroyed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the human ship responded. The voice that came through their speakers was calm and cold. It belonged to a human male, speaking in perfect galactic standard. This is Captain Lee Taemin of the Korean Deep Space Forces, speaking for the United Earth Resistance. Lee sat on his bridge, looking at the alien ships through his main screen. His crew worked quietly around him, their faces showing no fear. Lieutenant Kim So-ra managed the communications while Weapons Officer Commander Yoon Hye-jin checked her systems. You invaded our home, Lee continued, his voice carrying to every ship in the alien fleet. You killed our families. You burned our cities. You made one very big mistake. The channel stayed open. Every alien was listening now, their confidence turning to confusion. You left survivors. On the Domination's Edge, Zenth felt a chill run through his body. Cut the channel. All ships prepare for battle. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the hegemony. But Lee wasn't finished talking. Commander Yoon, are their weapons powered? Yes, sir. All 17 ships have armed their plasma cannons. Good. Give them exactly 10 seconds to think about their choice. The seconds passed like hours. On the alien ships, crews scrambled to battle stations. Weapons that could melt asteroids charged to full power. The hegemony had conquered 100 worlds with these same ships and weapons. "Time's up," Lee said quietly. The lead hegemony cruiser fired first. A brilliant beam of plasma shot across space, hot enough to vaporize any known material. It struck the Indomitable directly in the center of its hull, and nothing happened. The human ship didn't even slow down. The plasma hit their shields and simply disappeared like throwing water at a mountain. Warning lights should have flashed. Hull plates should have melted. Instead, the Indomitable sat in space completely undamaged. "Impossible," Zenth whispered, staring at his sensor readings. "Our weapons hit them directly." "Where did the energy go?" Chief Science Officer Dr. Choi Hyo-jin looked up from her station on the human bridge. "Captain, their plasma weapons are actually quite interesting. Primitive, but they put a lot of power behind them." "Enough to damage us?" Lee asked. "Not even close, sir. Our shields didn't even register the impact." Lee nodded and turned back to the communication channel. "Your turn." What happened next would be talked about in alien nightmares for generations. The Indomitable didn't fire massive weapons or launch hundreds of missiles. Instead, it did something much more terrifying. It showed them how outmatched they were. A single beam of energy reached out from the human ship and touched the lead hegemony cruiser. The alien vessel's shields collapsed instantly. Its weapons went dead. Its engines stopped working. In 3 seconds, the most powerful ship in the fleet became helpless space junk. "How?" Zenth gasped, watching his instruments fail one by one. "Your shields are designed to stop plasma and missiles," Lee explained over the open channel. "Our weapons work differently. We studied your technology for 50 years. We learned your weaknesses. One by one, the other hegemony ships tried to run. Their faster-than-light drives activated, but nothing happened. The Indomitable had somehow disabled their ability to escape." "You're trapped," Lee said, his voice still calm. "Now you have a choice. Surrender, or find out what our real weapons can do." Zenth looked at his dead instruments and his helpless fleet. For the first time in his life, he felt true fear. These weren't the primitive humans from their reports. This was something else, something that had been hiding and waiting. We surrender," he said, the words tasting like poison. "Smart choice. You're going to carry a message back to your leaders. Tell them that Earth's children are coming home. Tell them that for every human life they took, we will take 10 of theirs. Tell them that war is coming. And this time, they're the ones who are outgunned." Lee cut the communication and turned to his crew. "Release their ships. Let them run back to Zentara Prime." "Sir," asked Lieutenant Park Min-ho, "shouldn't we destroy them? They're enemies." "No," Lee replied, watching the alien ships flee into hyperspace. "Dead enemies can't spread fear. I want their leaders to know what's coming. I want them to have time to think about what they've done." As the last hegemony ship disappeared, the Indomitable turned toward the heart of the galaxy. Behind them, panicked messages raced through space carrying news that would change everything. The humans were back, and they were no longer the weak species the galaxy had known. They had become something new, something dangerous. The age of easy conquest was over. The real war was about to begin. Fleet Commander Zenth's message reached Zentara Prime 6 hours after his defeat. The recording played in the emergency meeting room while Admiral Vexutar and his officers watched in disbelief. "Admiral," Zenth's voice crackled from the speakers. "We found them, the humans, but they're not what we thought. Their ship, it's impossible. Our weapons did nothing. They disabled our entire fleet without effort. Sir, I recommend we avoid contact with human forces until we understand their technology." The recording ended, leaving silence in the room. Admiral Vextar stared at the star map, trying to understand what he had just heard. "It has to be a trick," said Chief Tactical Analyst Brix, his green scales twitching with nervousness. "No single ship could defeat 17 of our cruisers. Perhaps it's a new alien species pretending to be human." Intelligence Chief Mylara shook her head. "The language patterns match human communications exactly. Voice recognition confirms it was a human male. But Admiral, their technology readings are impossible. Their power output exceeds our best estimates by a factor of 10. Vextar walked to the window overlooking Zentara Prime's capital city. Millions of aliens lived below, safe in their homes because the hegemony fleet protected them. For 200 years, no enemy had ever threatened this world. "Deploy the 12th Battle Fleet," he ordered. 73 ships should be enough to handle one human vessel, no matter how advanced. Before anyone could respond, Alarms began screaming throughout the command center. Red lights flashed as every screen showed the same impossible reading. "Admiral," shouted Communications Officer Kellix, his tentacles writhing with panic. Multiple contacts appearing directly above the capital. High above Zentara Prime, space twisted as ships dropped out of hyperspace. But it wasn't just one vessel this time. The Indomitable led a formation of 43 human warships, each one as deadly and strange as the first. Captain Lee stood on his bridge, looking down at the alien homeworld. The planet was beautiful, purple oceans under a red sky with cities that sparkled like jewels. It was also the heart of an empire that had murdered 2 billion humans. "Status report," he said calmly. Chief Engineer Han Jae-sung checked his displays. "All systems operating perfectly, sir. The new Sol-class destroyers are holding formation. No mechanical problems." Lieutenant Kim Sora looked up from her communication station. "Sir, I count 43 human vessels now in the system. The Seoul, Busan, Jeju, and Andong are reporting ready for combat." Lee nodded. Each ship represented months of work in hidden shipyards, built with technology the aliens didn't know existed. The survivors of Earth had been busy while the galaxy thought they were dead. "Sir," added Tactical Officer Nam Da-yoon, "should we send them a message?" "Yes, but first target every military base on the planet. I want them to understand what negotiating from strength means." The tactical display came alive as 43 human ships locked their weapons onto targets across the planet below. Military bases, weapon factories, fleet yards. Every installation that could build or support warships was marked for destruction. On Zentara Prime, every defense system screamed warnings. Orbital platforms powered up their shields. Ground-based missile launchers prepared to fire. Fighter squadrons scrambled from their bases. None of it mattered. Admiral Vexistar watched his screens in horror as human targeting systems sliced through every defense like they weren't there. "How are they doing this?" "Our shields are military grade, sir," whispered Tactical Analyst Brix. "They're not trying to break our shields. They're somehow reaching through them. It's like our defenses don't exist." In space above, Captain Lee activated the fleet communication system. "This is Captain Lee Taemin speaking for the United Earth Resistance. You destroyed our home. You killed our people. Now we're here to discuss terms." Admiral Vextar's voice came back immediately, trying to sound confident. "Human vessel, you are greatly outnumbered. We have over 4,000 ships in this system. Withdraw now and we might let you live." Lee looked at Lieutenant Kim Sora, who shook her head. "Sir, I'm only reading about 200 ships in the system. The rest of their fleet is spread across the galaxy." "Admiral Vextar," Lee replied, "you seem to be confused about your situation. Let me help you understand." Commander Nam Da-eun pressed a button on her console. On the planet below, a single military base simply vanished. No explosion, no fire. It was there one moment and gone the next, leaving only empty ground. "That was a demonstration," Lee continued. "We can remove every military installation on your planet without harming a single civilian. Or we can turn your entire world into space dust. Your choice." The communication channel stayed silent for long minutes. Finally, Vexitar's voice returned, much quieter than before. "What do you want?" "We want you to call back every hegemony ship that's attacking human colonies. We want you to release every human prisoner. And we want you to explain to the galaxy what happens when someone tries to exterminate Earth's children." "Impossible. The hegemony doesn't negotiate with primitives." Lee sighed. "Commander Nam, remove 10 more bases. Make sure they're the important ones." 10 flashes of light appeared on the planet's surface. 10 military installations that had existed for centuries disappeared in seconds. The orbital defense platforms tried to respond, firing their biggest weapons at the human fleet. The energy beams hit the human shields and simply stopped, like children throwing rocks at a mountain. "Your weapons are 200 years out of date," Lee explained. "While you were conquering weak civilizations, we were preparing for the day someone would try to destroy us. We studied every species in the galaxy. We learned from every war. We built weapons designed to fight enemies exactly like you." Dr. Choi Hyojin looked up from her science station. "Captain, their planetary shields are trying to adapt to our weapons. It's actually quite clever, but they're about 50 years behind our technology. Can they stop us?" "Not even close, sir." Lee turned back to the communication channel. "Admiral, you have 1 hour to make your decision. Call back your fleets and release our people, or we'll start removing your ability to build new ships. After that, we'll move on to your other worlds." You can't fight the entire galaxy, Fexter shouted. We're not fighting the galaxy, Lee replied calmly. We're fighting bullies who pick on weaker species. Most of the galaxy will probably thank us when you're gone. The truth was, Lee knew they were taking a huge risk. 43 ships, even advanced ones, couldn't conquer an entire empire. But they didn't need to win every battle. They just needed to make the cost of fighting them too high to bear. 1 hour, Lee repeated, then cut the communication. Lieutenant Park Min-ho looked worried. Sir, what if they don't surrender? Even with our technology, 4,000 ships? Then we show them what human creativity looks like when we're angry, Lee replied. Dr. Choi, status on the special weapons? The Nova Cascade will be ready in 18 hours, sir. But Captain, we've never tested it on this scale. Lee looked down at the alien world, thinking about Earth burning under hegemony weapons. They made their choice when they decided humans were easy targets. Now they get to live with the consequences. As the deadline approached, every being on Zentara Prime waited to see if the galaxy was about to change forever. Above them, 43 human ships hung in space like death waiting to fall. The age of easy conquest was ending. The age of consequences had begun. The Galactic Council emergency meeting had been going for 18 hours straight. Representatives from 47 different species filled the Great Chamber, all trying to understand the same impossible question. How had humans become so powerful so quickly? Councillor Rythan floated in his water tank, his tentacles moving nervously as he presented his analysis. The energy readings make no sense. Their technology appears to be 300 years ahead of anything we've seen. Their shields, weapons, engines, everything operates on principles we don't understand. Ambassador Quill's forearms gestured wildly. But that's impossible. We watched Earth for decades before the invasion. They had barely learned to travel between stars. Their biggest ships were smaller than our cargo vessels. In the back of the chamber, Trade Representative Phyllis spoke quietly, but her words carried across the room. What if we only saw what they wanted us to see? The chamber fell completely silent. Every being stopped moving, stopped breathing, stopped thinking about anything except those 7 words. Explain, demanded Council Leader Threx. Phyllis stood up slowly. She was small compared to most species, but her intelligence had made her rich trading with dozens of worlds. I've been reviewing our intelligence files on humans. For 50 years we watched them fight each other with primitive weapons, but look at this pattern. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Every major human war ended with new technology. Every peace period was followed by massive scientific advancement. What if their wars weren't just conflicts? What if they were training exercises? The display showed human conflicts across centuries, each one more advanced than the last, each one teaching them new ways to kill. They weren't primitive, Phila continued. They were learning, and we gave them the perfect enemy to learn from. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Lee reviewed the intercepted Council transmissions with his senior officers. The human fleet had grown to over 200 ships now, with more arriving every day from hidden bases across the galaxy. Communications Chief Park Min-ho shook his head in amazement. Sir, they really believed we were backwards. Their intelligence files describe Earth as technologically infantile, with no significant military capability. Chief Science Officer Dr. Choi pulled up a tactical analysis. Captain, I've been studying their fleet designs. They haven't changed their basic ship layouts in over 200 years. No innovation, no adaptation to new threats. They became comfortable with easy victories. Lee walked to the main view screen looking out at the stars. They built an empire by attacking civilizations that couldn't fight back. They never learned to face an equal opponent. Lieutenant Kim So-ra looked up from her station. Sir, we're receiving reports from our scout ships. The hegemony is pulling back forces from 12 sectors, trying to mass their fleets for a major battle. How many ships are they gathering? Intelligence estimates over 4,000 vessels, sir. They're calling it the largest military force in galactic history. The bridge fell quiet. Even with their technological advantages, those were frightening numbers. Commander Nam Da-yoon checked her tactical displays. Sir, our total fleet strength is now 247 ships. We're still outnumbered nearly 20 to 1. Lee nodded, but he didn't look worried. Numbers don't win wars. Technology helps, but it's not everything. What wins wars is understanding your enemy better than they understand you. He turned to Dr. Choi. How long until the experimental weapons are ready? 72 hours for the Nova Cascade, sir. But Captain, are you certain about using it? We've only run computer simulations. They killed 2 billion humans, Lee said quietly. They turned Earth into ash. They're about to learn why humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We're very good at it. The communication system chimed with an incoming message. Admiral Vextar's face appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. His confident expression was gone, replaced by fear and anger. Captain Lee, you have caused enough damage. The Galactic Council is demanding that you withdraw from hegemony space immediately. I don't take orders from the Council, Lee replied calmly. But I'm curious, have you released our people yet? We are working on locating human prisoners. That's not an answer. Commander Nam, show the Admiral what happens when people waste our time. On the planet below, another military installation vanished in a flash of light. This one had been a major weapon research facility, containing technology the hegemony had used to conquer dozens of worlds. 2 billion humans, Lee said, his voice still calm but carrying a dangerous edge. That's how many lives you took. I can keep removing your military assets for the next 100 years and still not be even. Vextar's image flickered with interference. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. Every species will unite against you. Will they? Lee asked. Let me read you something. He picked up a data tablet. This is a transmission we intercepted from the Tellarian Republic. Quote, if the humans remove the hegemony threat, we will finally be free to govern ourselves. End quote. He picked up another tablet. This is from the Zephyrian Trade Union. Human technology could revolutionize interstellar commerce. We should consider opening diplomatic relations. Interesting reading, Admiral. The truth was becoming clear to everyone watching. The hegemony had ruled through fear and force, taking what they wanted from weaker species. Many civilizations secretly hoped someone would finally stop them. Dr. Choi stepped forward. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups across the hegemony fleet. They're preparing for a major engagement. Where? The Zerion Nebula, sir. It's a strategic choke point between their core worlds and the outer territories. If they control it, they can stop our advance. Lee studied the star charts. The nebula was perfect for their purposes. Dense with cosmic gases and energy fields that would interfere with alien sensors while leaving human systems unaffected. How many ships are gathering there? Over 4,000, sir. Every available hegemony vessel plus ships from their allied species. Lieutenant Park Min-ho looked concerned. Sir, even with our advantages, those odds are exactly what we need, Lee finished. Admiral Vextar wants to fight one decisive battle that will end this war. He's about to get his wish. He activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Captain Lee. Set course for the Zerion Nebula. It's time to teach the galaxy what happens when you underestimate Earth's children. As the human fleet began moving toward what would become the largest space battle in galactic history, Lee thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the ashes of Earth, humanity had built something new. Not just better ships and weapons, but a unified purpose. The aliens had expected to find broken survivors hiding in the dark. Instead, they had awakened something that had been waiting for this moment for centuries. Sir, Kim Sora said quietly, are you sure we can win? Lee looked out at the stars, thinking about all the humans who would never see them again. We're not just fighting to win, we're fighting to make sure this never happens to anyone else. The battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy was 3 days away. The Zerion Nebula had witnessed many battles over the centuries, but nothing like what was about to happen. Cosmic gases swirled in brilliant colors, red, blue, and gold clouds that stretched across light years of space. Hidden in those clouds, the largest military force in galactic history waited for their enemies to arrive. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching his fleet displays with satisfaction. 4,012 ships surrounded him, every hegemony vessel that could still fight, plus allies from a dozen species who feared human expansion. Fleet Captain Korax, he said to his second in command. Final count. 4,012 vessels confirmed, Admiral, representing the combined might of 16 species. Even the Zalkarian Empire sent their best ships. Vextar nodded. The humans had advanced technology, but physics still applied. No force this small could stand against the united fleets of half the UR galaxy. Movement detected on long-range sensors. reported Scanner Chief Mylux. 247 contacts approaching from the outer edge of the nebula. So few, whispered Korax. Admiral, are we certain this isn't a trap? What trap could they set? We outnumber them nearly 20 to 1. Even their advanced weapons can't overcome those odds. But Admiral Vextar was wrong about many things. The human fleet moved through the nebula like ghosts, their ships designed to use the cosmic interference to their advantage. While alien sensors struggled with the energy fields, human technology turned the nebula into a weapon. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching his tactical displays. Around him, the names of Earth's greatest cities prepared for battle. Captain Park commanding the Daegu, Captain O aboard the Suwon, Captain Lim directing the Changwon. Each ship carried the memory of billions of dead humans. All stations report ready, sir, announced Lieutenant Kim So-ra. Lee activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every human ship carrying across the nebula to crews who had lost everything. All ships, this is Captain Lee. You know what they took from us. You know why we're here. Today we don't fight just for revenge. We fight to make sure no other species suffers what we suffered. He paused, looking out at the swirling gases that hid thousands of enemy ships. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy humanity. All ships execute Operation Thunderclap. What followed wasn't a battle, it was an education. Human ships moved through space like they were dancing to music only they could hear. While alien vessels struggled to track targets through the nebula's interference, human sensors saw everything with perfect clarity. The first alien attack came from 3 directions at once, over 800 ships firing their most powerful weapons. Plasma beams and missile swarms filled space with deadly light. Enough firepower to sterilize a planet every shot missed. Impossible, Vextar shouted, watching his sensors. They're moving too fast. No ship can accelerate like that. But the humans weren't just faster, they were smarter. While the aliens fought like they always had, using overwhelming force and direct attacks, the humans fought like they had been training for this moment their entire lives. Captain Lee's voice cut through the alien communication channels. You learn to fight weak enemies. We learned to fight each other. The human counterattack began with surgical precision. Instead of massive weapons that destroyed everything in their path, human ships used focused beams that reached across impossible distances with perfect accuracy. One by one, alien command ships simply stopped working. Their weapons powered down. Their engines went silent. Their communication systems failed. In minutes, the coordinated alien fleet became a confused mob of scattered ships. How are they doing this? Korax demanded, watching his own systems flicker. Chief Science Officer Brilk studied his readings with growing terror. Admiral, they're not destroying our ships. They're turning them off. Their weapons somehow shut down our technology without damaging the hull. Impossible. Our ships are protected against electromagnetic attacks. Sir, I don't think they're using electromagnetic weapons. This is something else, something we've never seen before. On the Indomitable, Dr. Choi looked up from her science station. Captain, their fleet coordination is collapsing. Without their command ships, they can't maintain formation. Phase 2, Lee ordered. Show them what real weapons look like. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Hye-jin smiled grimly as she activated the special weapons systems. Nova Cascade ready, sir. Targeting the nebula's hydrogen concentrations. Fire. What happened next would be remembered in nightmares across the galaxy for generations. The Nova Cascade didn't just destroy enemy ships, it turned the space around them into a controlled star. The weapon reached out into the nebula and began igniting the cosmic gases. Hydrogen clouds that had drifted peacefully for millions of years suddenly became fusion reactors. Space itself began to burn with the light of creation. Entire enemy formations vanished as walls of nuclear fire swept through their positions. Ships that tried to escape found their paths blocked by burning space. The beautiful nebula became a maze of deadly light. Retreat, Vextar screamed into his communicator. All ships, full retreat. But there was nowhere to run. The humans had turned the nebula into a trap, using the cosmic gases as both shield and weapon. Every escape route led through burning space. Fleet Captain Korax stared at his displays in horror. Admiral, we've lost over half the fleet. The survivors are scattered across 12 sectors. Vexitar looked at the tactical display, watching thousands of red dots disappear as his ships either fled or died. In 30 minutes, the largest military force in galactic history had been reduced to scattered refugees. His final transmission went out on all emergency frequencies, reaching every military command center in the galaxy. To any surviving vessels, all species, do not engage the humans. Do not approach Sol System. They are not a civilization. They are a natural disaster with starships. 6 months later, the Galactic Council met in emergency session to vote on Resolution 2847. The chamber was quieter than it had ever been, filled with beings who had learned to fear a simple name. Human Trade Representative Phila, now promoted to Ambassador for Human Relations, stood to read the final vote. Resolution 2847 passes unanimously, she announced. The galaxy formally recognizes Earth's sovereignty over any star system they choose to claim. Military action against human colonies is hereby prohibited under penalty of immediate intervention. Council leader Threx's voice was barely a whisper. What are they now? After the nebula, after what they did to the hegemony fleet, what have they become? Phila looked at her final intelligence report before filing it away forever. They are what they always were, she said quietly. We just never bothered to look closely enough to see it. In the depths of space, the human fleet had already moved on to their next target. Early reports suggested another aggressive species was enslaving primitive worlds in the Procyon sector. Captain Lee sat in his command chair, reading the intelligence briefings. Around him, his crew worked with the quiet efficiency of people who had found their purpose. Navigation, he said calmly. How long to the Procyon system? 48 hours at current speed, sir. Good, send a message ahead to whoever's in charge there. Tell them the Earth Defense Fleet would like to discuss their labor policies. Lieutenant Kim Sora looked up from her station. Sir, what if they don't want to talk? Lee looked out at the stars, thinking about the galaxy they were building. One where strong species couldn't simply take what they wanted from the weak. Then we'll teach them the same lesson we taught the hegemony. Sometimes the best way to create peace is to make war too expensive to continue. The Indomitable and her escort fleet disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward their next mission. Behind them, the galaxy had learned a new truth that would shape the future of every civilization among the stars. The most dangerous phrase in any language was now simple and clear. This is a human warship. And somewhere in the dark between stars, other species were learning that the age of easy conquest was over. Humanity had come home, and they had brought consequences with them.